Next segment, Brian, let's talk about the keys to victory on the offensive side of the football. And this is one of the fun segments that we like to do. You put out your keys to victory earlier in the week, and then we look back and we revisit them and we decide, we give did they do it or not? And to what degree did they do it? And this is a fun one, especially when I saw the 4 offensive keys and then I thought about the offense. I was like, we definitely have some things to talk about here, for sure. So let's dive into this thing, Brian. The first key to revisit has been the key all along, the first key anyway, and that is to start fast offensively. And I will just say that the first drive was, I believe, a 3-and-out. The second drive ended in an interception.
It was an ugly 3-and-out too.
So, yes, it was. And the second drive, while they were moving the ball the second drive, it ended in an interception, which then I believe Georgia Tech went down and scored a touchdown. So you did not start fast in this one at all.
You know, it's fun. It was a minus.
Yes,
Vince, it was a minus.
I mean,
Notre Dame had 2 drives in the first quarter. One of them was a 3-and-out. The other one was an interception. But I will say this. I actually felt kind of like I thought the offense was starting to get some rhythm.
Agreed.
On that second drive. And you said, okay, well, how's he going to respond to this? You know, because the kid hasn't thrown a pick since the Northern Illinois game.
Right.
And so you're like, all right, how's he going to respond to this? And I think he responded like, what, 12? I think it was 12. It was either 12 or 14 straight completions. I'd have to go. It was 12. I thought he was 0 for at that point in time, but he had 2. And so he completed his next 12 passes. And you say, okay, well, they came out second quarter and got the ball and went down, nice long touchdown. They answered Georgia Tech's touchdown with a touchdown drive. And then their next possession. So they went 0 for 2 in the first quarter, 2 for 2 in the second quarter. That's not a fast start because it should have been 21-7 at halftime. You know, you got a break that your defense was able to, you got a muff snap on a field goal that could have made it 14-10 at halftime. Georgia Tech gets the ball and starts the second half. You know what I mean? Like it could have looked different.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, you didn't play well in the first half, or at least first quarter. So, I mean, it's a minus. Yeah. It's a clear minus. And look, they had been starting to play better early. I mean, they were good early on they were really good early on against Louisville. They were pretty good early on against Stanford after the first drive. You had that dumb penalty by Knapp that killed a drive and then the fumble, but there was a lot of really good. So you have a big lead at halftime. But this game, they definitely didn't start fast. That's a minus.
No, they did not start fast at all. And it was, honestly, it was disappointing how they started because you're right. The 3-and-out to start the game was ugly. I mean, they had the ball for just a shade over a minute. They only gained 8 yards. That was just, it was just not.
Yeah, I mean, your first drive and the kick return, the 3 plays and the punt all took a minute and 17 seconds.
Yes, it's terrible. I'm sorry, it was terrible.
Your second drive lasted a whopping 3 minutes and 16 seconds.
Correct.
So in the first quarter, you had the ball for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. I mean, they had it for almost 10 minutes.
Yeah. And that was not a good omen, obviously. If you're looking at that and you're like, okay, if this whole game is going to be like the first quarter, that's obviously not good.
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny, Vince. I'm watching and I wasn't, it was not good. And I was frustrated watching it, but I wasn't as panicked as I would have normally been because you just felt like there's some stuff there. They just, Riley forced that ball trying to make a play. And you thought that they were they had some openings there. You could kind of see they were starting to, and then boom, you have that happen, right? I mean, even like the second drive starts with Jadarian Price just making a dude miss and the whole safety comes down. It's him and Jadarian in the hole. And it's like,
that's not going to work out.
I was talking to a guy that covers Georgia Tech and he was doing it. He did a really nice post-game show, but he was kind of ripping him like, you did a bad job tackling. I was like, hey, brother, I hate to admit it to you, but that's been the story that every team that Notre Dame has played this year. That's been their story, their defensive story after the game, and it's not a coincidence.
If they're trying to tackle an open space, like
go ask Texas A&M how easy it is to tackle Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love in space.
Right. Good
luck.
That's
just that's life, brother. You know what I mean? Just prepare yourself for it. It's gonna happen.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, definitely minus on the fast start, Vince.
So the second one is an interesting one. It is a topic of debate, I suppose, for some
I
people.
don't think it is.
Okay, that's fair too. Offensive line must play well was your second key to victory.
And the point was, Vince, not that they just need to do a body on a body. They needed to play beyond that. They needed to play well, and they didn't. But they played hard.
Correct.
And their not playing well resulted in a lot of drives stagnating. And it wasn't just them. The receivers had some mistakes in the game.
Sure.
Riley had the pick. It was just a terrible decision. Just doing it. Bo Collins quit on the route. Okay. Even
Still,
if he didn't,
bad decision.
Like there was a guy between him and the ball, and then the guy that picked the pass off. I mean, my only hope on that play was like, please overthrow this defender. Please overthrow the defender.
And I think he thought that he did do that because it was a pretty nice interception. I mean, it was a fingertips interception.
He wasn't trying to overthrow that.
No, he wasn't. But right? I think when he let it go, he's like, well, at least I overthrew him.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Terrible,
and it
terrible
just
decision.
I mean, it's just awful. Awful.
It was just, so it wasn't just the line, but I mean, just go through drives and it's 21-7. How are we feeling about this game if the 18-yard touchdown run from Jeremiah Love in the fourth quarter counts? And all of a sudden, now they're really behind the 8 ball. And, because I think was it 21-0? Or was it 24-0 when that play happened, Vince? Let me go back.
Well, the missed field goal happened. It was his second field goal try, so 24.
Yeah,
right.
So let me see here. Yeah, so that was on the field goal drive.
Oh, correct. The field goal drive. Okay, so it was
on
21.
The first field goal drive. Yeah, so second and 10, Jeremiah Love. Right. So yeah, so now all of a sudden it's early fourth quarter. Georgia Tech gets the ball back at the 10-minute mark. They would have actually had another minute on the clock if not for that penalty, and it's 28-7. Now we got to throw the ball all over the field, and maybe Notre Dame shuts them down and gets good field position. Maybe they get the pick sets then, right? So we're having a different conversation about it. And it's the second week in a row you've had a drive just completely stalled by that kind of penalty. And we've seen it from other linemen, but it's just been Anthony Knapp the last 2 weeks. And then there's there's some plays where it's like you're getting into a nice rhythm, and then all of a sudden a guard gives up a pressure that just completely blows up the drive. A receiver doesn't come off the line hard, and so there's nowhere for Riley to go with the football. It was a lot of those really sloppy mistakes, and the offensive line played a big role in it. You're moving, and all of a sudden, boom, -3 yard run because your center got whooped, or your left guard got whooped, or your right, and it's just. Your right tackle just completely whiffs on an outside rush. Your left tackle just gets kind of driven into the quarterback. I mean, you've got a screenplay called, and I'm thinking, dude, if the left tackle gets out there, that might have gone. There just was a lot of those plays, and it was everybody across the board had one.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I thought the offensive line they were okay the first 3 quarters. They had a really bad fourth quarter. Just for whatever reason, and I can't pinpoint it, but fourth quarter, I think part of it's because Georgia Tech started really keen on the run game in the fourth quarter. Since when Notre Dame went up, they're like, well, we don't think they're going to throw it. And they just had a lot of mistakes in the fourth quarter. Pressures, run-throughs, the hold. They had a really bad fourth quarter, and that's what kept Notre Dame from pulling this game away. Because up to that point in time, in the second half, Notre Dame was cruising against Georgia Tech in the second half. And then the offensive line just started making this drive killing mistake, that drive killing mistake. And so no, they didn't play well at all. That's definitely a minus. But I'll say this, Vince. Here's what I'll say. Last year, when the offensive line didn't play well, it wasn't just technical mistakes. There's a couple plays where Rocco gets beat, right? And I can tell you exactly why he got beat. He'd hit the guy and stop moving his feet. And then the guy'd kind of go by him. I can tell you exactly why Pat Coogan got beat, because when he gets beat, he lunges at a guy, gets his shoulders down, and the guys just throw him where he loses his balance. Sam Pendleton takes horrible steps towards linemen. And when he does hit guys, he tries to bully them like it's high school. He tries to push them off, and then they go back and run right around him and make the play on the ball. I mean, that happened multiple times on Saturday. Anthony Knapp takes bad angles on down blocks, and guys get over top. I mean, Emil Wagner being slow out of his stance on a play where he gets run by on the outside. All things that you don't like. I'm not happy about them. They're not good. They're this, that, the other thing. But last year, those same things would happen in games, Vince. But what made it worse is they didn't play hard. Here's what I'll say about the offensive line on Saturday. I don't think anybody on the offensive line played well Saturday. I thought Sam Pendleton played poorly. I don't know that I'd say anybody else played poorly, but I don't think anybody played well. But you know why they were able to be part of an offense that was able to do what they did against Georgia Tech? Because they played hard. Mm-hmm. And that's something that it's not that I'm not handing out consolation prizes because it wasn't good enough. This is your O-line. It's not good enough to just have moral victories. But you went out and you were playing a defense, Vince, that we talked about was giving up barely 100 yards a game, right? They were giving up. Let's see, what were they at coming into this game? I think they were minus 100, right? So they were at. No, I'm sorry. I need to go to Georgia Tech. What was Georgia Tech's run defense coming into this game? They were giving up like 88 yards a game, something like that. No, that was Stanford. Was that Stanford? Were just over 100. They were at 103.7 yards per game. They, had held 4 of their previous 7 opponents under 100 yards. They were giving up like 3.5 yards per carry. Notre Dame goes for $168, 4.3 yards per carry. That's not a great performance, but it was good enough to get it done. But it was good enough for one reason and one reason only, because you played hard. And this is the whole point is I can correct them as a coach. I can correct mistakes. I can clean up your footwork. I can clean up your pad level. I can clean up you stopping your feet, right guard. I can clean up your slow, sloppy kick slide Emil. I can clean up Anthony taking bad snaps. I can clean up Anthony's base getting too wide and get driven into the quarterback. I can clean up, Sam Pendleton trying to bully guys instead of driving them up. I can clean all that stuff up. What you can't clean up is guys who just won't show up and play hard every week. And as bad as this offensive line has played at times this year, where I will continue to give them respect and credit, is they compete.
Yeah.
And when you've got backs like Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, if you just compete, they're going to go make some plays. Mm-hmm. Jadarian had 3 great runs on Saturday. And in each one, he had to make somebody miss within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage. But here's the thing. By them playing hard on those 3 snaps, they were able to give him a chance where it's just him and a defender. And that's it.
Well,
and if it's you and a defender, if you're a defender and it's just you and Jadarian Price, odds are you're not going to win against Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love. You're just not.
I would add Riley Leonard to that mix as well. From a guy who makes plays while the offensive line is trying hard. You know what I mean?
Right.
I would add him to that mix. And I just want to highlight the one play we talked about before the show, right? The play where Riley Leonard should have been sacked, right? Terrible play by Sam Pendleton. He turned his body, almost sideways. The guy just went right around him. Should have sacked Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard is able to kind of get out of it. Sam Pendleton just lays on top of that guy so that he can't get a hold of Riley Leonard more than he already did, right? Because Riley Leonard spun out of it. And then Pat Coogan, who shouldn't be 7 yards back behind the line of scrimmage, and he ends up kind of just putting his arms out like this and just blocks 2 guys and allows Riley Leonard to get the corner. You know what I mean? So, it was horrible across the board from the offensive line. They allowed way too much penetration on that play, but they didn't quit on it.
From an
assignment standpoint, exactly. But they didn't quit on it, and they allowed Riley Leonard to make a play on the outside. And that, to me, is like the definition of don't quit, keep going.
They were able to make a play because Riley Leonard also spun off a guy who was about to slam him into the ground.
Well, 100%. And that's why I was adding him to that group of 3 guys. You know what I mean?
No, you're 100% correct. Yeah. I was leading you back to your original point.
Right.
Your original point was when you've got playmakers like this. Aeneas Williams has 1 catch in the game. It was a great catch in a great moment. But yes, the offensive line, I'll at least give them this. They're playing hard.
They're playing hard.
And they're not technically sound. They make way too many technical mistakes. You have certain guys regressing, not progressing. Other guys are veterans who are still making the same mistakes they made last year. That's all signs of not coaching well enough. But part of coaching is also getting your guys to play hard. Part of pride amongst your players is, are you playing hard?
Right.
And that's the thing is I have a lot of criticism for the offensive line, from the left tackle on over to the right tackle. but the fact that they play hard is allowing this team to have the success that they're having. Now, if against some of the better teams, they're going to have to play hard and play well. And they were a key to this game getting out of hand, and they couldn't do enough for them Notre Dame to really dominate this team the way that they could and should have. And that's got to get better. There's no doubt that's got to get better. So this is a minus.
Key to victory number 3. Let's see if we can break the minus streak since we've got 2 minuses in a row.
Nope.
Yeah, I didn't think we would. But the third key to success is downfield passing success. And I think this is also a minus, Brian, based on what we saw in this game. They went downfield a couple different times.
3 times.
But the one big time that they went downfield was picked off.
Yeah.
So
4 times.
That's obviously not good.
A pick, 2 incompletions, and a completion. Part of it is, Vince, I mean, you watch the game and you're looking like, they only give up a few pressures. And I'm thinking it's because the ball is literally not being held long enough for that to happen. I mean, You talked earlier about Mike Denbrock just accepted who his team is to a degree. I'm sure Mike Denbrock would love his offensive line to be better. I'm sure he would like his receivers to play a little harder and to be more effective. I'm sure he would love if Riley Leonard looked like Jaden Daniels. That's not what he has right now.
Right.
And the fact is his offensive line has not shown. And even on Saturday, there's a couple snaps they gave him good time, but pass pro with 7 guys in protection. You know what I mean? And there are a lot of inconsistent pockets. And anyone who's played quarterback will tell you, even on the snaps where you're not getting pressured, if you're getting pressured a lot, you're still going to feel pressured.
Right.
Your clock is sped up. And so when you break it down, Vince, and you look at it, you realize like Mike Denbrock just doesn't have a lot of faith at this team. And even the deep shots were
quick.
Drop, gather, throw. You know what I mean? Like they were rhythm shots. And so the mistakes, obviously Riley Leonard made a bad read on his first one. When you look at that play, he's got to climb the pocket and hit, I think it was Chris Mitchell. So he's got to hit over the middle.
Yes.
Underneath.
It was.
And that was a mistake on and look, I've done this before. I've thrown that exact route for an interception in college because pre-snap, I thought I got what I wanted, and they rolled their coverage, and you've just in your head you've decided I'm throwing the post. I hit it every day in practice. We hit it 5 times in practice for big plays. I'm going on the post because we need to take some shots. He threw the pick. And then they had the far hash slot fade to Jaden Greathouse. Great ball, great catch by Jaden Greathouse.
Yeah.
I want to see. I hope that's a springboard for Riley Leonard because Jaden Greathouse wasn't open. The guy played it well. Jaden didn't make a great move, but Riley threw it right where only Jaden could get it, and Jaden made a great play on the ball and got his feet down. You had the post route late to Jaden Thomas. I thought Jaden ran a sloppy route. He drifted, let the guy get underneath him. I thought the routes all day were sloppy and kind of slow. And Riley tried to force the ball instead of what Riley needs to do there is throw it quicker and just throw it over the top to the back of the end zone, and either Jaden catches it or nobody does. And he tried to force it, and the guy almost undercut it. I think, I just there. And then if you had to throw to Bo Collins, now I'm going to actually put this on the board, Vince, later tonight, but that ball 100% should have been caught. So Bo overcorrected on that route. So Bo got too wide on the release. And in stacking the guy, he went too far inside. So if you look at where he was when Riley let the ball go, it would have dropped right here if Bo would have stayed on his track. At the very least, Bo has to kind of go like this to catch it. And he just overcorrected a little bit. And then because he's coming in, he has to go out, and it looks like a not a good throw, but to me that's on Bo. I thought overall Bo played fine. It just that'll happen sometimes. When you don't throw the ball downfield a lot, those things tend to look worse.
Sure. Yeah.
And so there was just missed opportunities throwing the ball down the field, and they didn't take advantage of some stuff that was there. But honestly, they didn't have a lot of time, and they gave them some clean pockets. Their pass pro was okay at times. But this is okay against a team that's not a very good pass rushing team. They were ranked in the hundreds coming into this game, in Pro Football Focus pass rush grade, which I don't know how much I want to put into that. But they also ranked in the what were they, Vince? Let me go find this. I'm gonna try to find this breakdown because I had the stat last week. So let me just find this real quick. I think they ranked in the 90s in sacks per game. Let's see here. Stacking up. All right, let's find the Georgia Tech pass defense. They ranked 113th in sacks per game coming into the game. So you were okay against the defense that ranked 113th in the country in sacks.
Right.
A team that had 70, I think it was 74 pressures coming into the game, according to Pro Football Focus. 74 pressures in 7 games. They're not a very good pass rushing team. And so you should have dominated them, and they didn't. They were just okay and had some big misses, and that played a big role in why they couldn't get the ball down the field. And again, we just have to come to grips with this is who they are. And I still will never understand why they don't even – oh, and there was one play where Chris Mitchell's open for – might have been a touchdown, Vince. I think it was the second quarter. It was a play where Riley scrambled. Might have been the 4th down play. But Chris Mitchell's wide open on a go route, and Mitchell Evans is wide open on a cross. But the pressure just immediately gets to Riley.
It pushes him, and he goes to go to the opposite way, right?
To the right. And
yeah,
he couldn't see the crosser, and he couldn't see the go.
Yep.
It just got right in his face right away.
Yep.
And that was another one of those plays where, like, there was 2 guys wide open on the play, and Chris Mitchell's like, I'm open, because they blew the coverage. The corner came in, and the safety turned his back on Chris Mitchell. But as soon as Riley gets to the top of his drop, inside stunt, he's got to spin out. He's got to go outside. Couldn't see him. And it's stuff like that keeps happening that eliminates chances for big plays. And you don't call enough downfield shots to be able to miss on those opportunities. And those things continue to get frustrating. Very, very frustrating.
We got one more key to victory that we need to revisit here, and it was efficiency in the run game. And this one, I think, is a little. This one isn't quite as negative. I think we're in the neighborhood on this one, but it's still not a plus for me.
It's a check.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but this is more just reviewing the film. There was a couple negatives, but overall, Vince, I thought they did a pretty decent job of getting the 2s and the 3s and the 4s when they were there, and not allowing the run game to get them behind the sticks a whole lot. And I thought that was important in the game. I mean, like I said, there was a couple plays. Jeremiah got drilled in the backfield once, and Jadarian got drilled in the backfield twice. But if you look at the running backs, they had minus 11 rushing yards. I mean, so Notre Dame ran for 168 yards on 39 carries, 4.3 yards per carry. But, college football still does that stupid, taking the knee counts against your rushing numbers. And then they actually had the fake field goal on there. So, I mean, the offense technically ran for 166 yards on 36 carries, which is 4.6 yards per carry. Again, it's a decent day's work against what's been a big physical, stout rush defense that has been so far this year. And, I thought Riley Leonard was at 5.1 yards per carry. Jadarian was at 8.6. Jeremiah Love was only at 2.6, but he had a 1-yard touchdown run.
Yeah.
So that takes a little bit off of it. And, he had a couple minuses. But overall, I just thought that this was about as efficient as they have been this year. I mean, they didn't have the longest run was they had a 23-yard run by Jadarian. Jadarian had 2 19-yard runs in the game. Jeremiah's longest was 10. Riley's longest was 16. They actually didn't rip off the 30, 40, 50-yarders like they have been. Their success came more from, 4 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards, and eliminating some of the minuses. So I thought overall that was a check. They did a solid job there for the most part.
No, I agree. And, I think you mentioned it before, the running backs did a really good job of sometimes making something out of nothing. There were times where they would get hit at the line of scrimmage and just drive their feet. And now, again, this kind of takes me back to the offensive line part. There was one play, and I think it was in the first half, where Jeremiah Love, he got stoned about 1.5 to 2 yards after the line of scrimmage. And then all of a, and then he kind of got stood up, and then here comes the rest of the offensive line and just pushing the pile.
Kudos to Jeremiah for driving his feet.
Agreed.
And then, like you said, the offensive line just battling, and next thing you know, he pushes him for 10 yards.
Right.
It impresses me how hard Jeremiah Love runs.
It really does, because he doesn't look like he's built to run between the tackles, and he runs hard.
And then they run him outside finally, and he has an 18-yard touchdown run that gets called back because of a penalty.
Yeah.
But Yeah, it was I mean, so your two running backs rushed for 105 yards on 22 carries. Good day's work.
Yeah.
Riley had 51 yards on 10 carries. I think he had a 7-yard scramble, couple 0 scrambles. I mean, overall, not a ton of design runs for him. Had a 3rd and 1 conversion that he had on 3rd down. He had the touchdown run of 1 yards. So Riley averaged 5.1 yards per carry despite having a 3rd and 1 conversion, which is an efficient run, a 1-yard touchdown run, which is an efficient run.
Right.
And a couple times where Georgia Tech stopped runs, it wasn't the line. Like they ran a pin and pull later in the game when it was like they were up big. And it was the carry where Jeremiah is about to bounce it out left and the guy comes backside. That was the boundary safety that came backside because they knew that Notre Dame was running the clock. You know what I mean? And that's just my point on running the score up. If you don't want to have the score get run up on you, don't start putting 9 freaking guys in the box and then thinking the other team's just going to keep running the football. Don't bring a safety blitz off the backside on 1st or 2nd down, which you never would have done in the 1st and 2nd quarter because they might pull it and throw it behind you if you don't want a team to throw the ball on you. Play your defense straight up. Play your base defense and say, hey, look, we surrender. So I don't want to hear this crybaby crap from a couple Georgia Tech people. Oh, you're running the score up. Our job is to score. Your job is to not score. And if Marcus Freeman wanted to really make this game as big of a blot as possible, he doesn't pull his defensive starters on the last series. Now, He was smart to do so because you're up 31-7. There's not a lot of time left. There's no need for you to get somebody injured on your defense because you're trying to keep them at 7 points, right? But if that's what he cared about, so you want to know why he did the fake field goal, especially because they're trying to extend. It wasn't so much about, it
wasn't about scoring. They kicked a field goal there.
But. Well, it was about scoring, but like people say, well, they faked the field goal and then they just run up, and they didn't run it up the middle. They threw a ball into the end zone on 1st down.
Correct.
On 2nd down, they ran the exact same play that Jeremiah Love, your best player, scored a 39-yard touchdown run on the week before. Oh, just ran up the middle. You mean ran their bread and butter play that they scored 2 long touchdowns on last week against Stanford? Right? Like, yeah, of course you're going to get your best player the ball on your best run. That's not conservative. We're trying to score. And you have a run through and it goes for -3. So now it's next thing you know, it's 3rd and 13. You threw a deep ball. You got the ball to your best player on your best play. And then you get a 3-yard loss because somebody blew an assignment. Then the very next play, you get a false start. It got called on Rocco Spindler, but the whole line moved because Pat Coogan was late snapping the ball on the cadence. He was pointing to somebody instead of snapping. And so Rocco, and they could have called it on any of the other offensive linemen.
Right.
They called it on Rocco because the guy that mainly threw the flag, that was the nearest guy to him. But that was on Coogan. And now you're in 3rd and 18. Okay, well, you're not going to throw a deep ball there because you're 48 yards out. So let's run that 3rd down play that's worked well against Purdue, worked well against Louisville, try to get 8, 9, 10 yards, and then either A, we're in a better field goal range, or B, if we get enough of a chunk on this little quick pop run, maybe you're in 2-down territory. So I actually understood it. And it wasn't, the design wasn't, okay, fake the field goal and then just up the middle. You took another minute and a half off the clock. You made them use a timeout, and you took a shot into the end zone. So I don't agree with the notion of, well, why would you fake that and then get conservative? They didn't. They made mistakes. 2nd and 10 after throwing a shot into the end zone, you're running the ball on your best run, your bread and butter run to your best player. That is not conservative.
Well, and here's the other piece of this, and then we'll move on to the defense. But the part of the problem with everybody, they're running up the score, was because the TV copy kept saying it over
from the first quarter, Vince. When I listened to from the first quarter, like, they're going to have to get style points.
No, you don't. That's dumb. Why are you? And they just kept going back to that well over and over again. And if I'm just watching this game with no commentary, nothing about that game says they're trying to get style points to me as I'm watching it. They're trying to get me to think that by saying it over and over again. But that's where a lot of this is coming from, is because that was the narrative that they kept pushing. It was the playoff percentages and it was style points against Georgia Tech.
Yep.
Like, I mean, cardinal sin of announcing, okay, when you're announcing TV, is to go back to the well and use the same graphic over and over again. And that's what they did.
They created the
graphics
narrative
more than once. Exactly.
I remember against Georgia Tech back in 2015, Notre Dame had a 30-7 lead. They scored. CJ Prosise rips off a 91-yard touchdown run with 6:58 left in the game. It's 30-7. The final score of that game was that's 6:58 left in the game. The final score of that game was 30-22, and Georgia Tech had the ball on another onside kick. So unless Brent Key, sorry, that's the Virginia Tech coach, unless Brent Key pulled all the starters, which he did not.
He did not, no.
It's only a 17-point game with 4-something left in the game.
Right, exactly.
If let's say Notre Dame would have kicked a field goal there and missed it, right, like they did, okay, so now there's almost 5 minutes left in the game, and Georgia Tech hits a big play like they had just done in the third quarter, gets a quick score. Now there's 2.5 minutes left, and it's 24-14. Okay, it's not a great odds that they still win, but it's a lot better. Did you watch the Alabama-Georgia game?
Right.
Not too long ago? So, that's the whole thing for me is like, it's nonsense. It was
nonsense.
It was disappointing because I actually tend to like those two guys as a play-by-play crew in other games. I thought this game was like, they seemed like they had their talking points and
they were sticking to it, man.
Like never talked about this is a good Georgia Tech team. And
right.
It's just narrative. But the point is, Vince, is we're getting back to an efficiency in the run game. They lost some of that in the fourth quarter.
Right.
And that played a role in their offense kind of losing its pace. But part of that was how Georgia Tech was playing.
Sure.
Once Notre Dame got a big lead, they started bringing stuff from all over the place, and Notre Dame was kind of running teeth of it. I mean, you want to know why they were pulling and throwing the ball, because Georgia Tech was bringing all that nonsense. So
yep.
Yeah, and again, I go back to in football, your offense has one job: score.
Yeah.
Defense has one job: don't let them score.
Right.
You failed at that job, Georgia Tech, and that's why you lost that football game.
Correct.
Simple as that.
So that's going to do it for our keys revisited offensively. Stick around. We've still got to talk about the defense and some other stuff. But in the meantime, hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell, share with your family and friends, leave a 5-star review, and jump on the boards@irishbreakdown.com for all kinds of breaking news and breakdowns as well.